Here is Robert Fair. Well, okay, so you're here tonight to learn about, for me, I guess I'm biased because I'm a couples therapist, but one of the most important things there is in life is to actually learn about how relationships work. And we're social beings, right? So it's probably really important for us to actually get this down. And it will create a lot of good in your life if you can get this down, and create a lot of misery for you if you don't get this down. And there's no way around it because we're social, again, we're social people, and so we need to learn how to relate, we need to learn how to commit to serious relationships, and then maybe enter into marriage and how to go into that. So this is just the super important stuff. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself just to get started. Maybe go to the next slide. Well, I'll stay there for a second. So that's me. And you see up there the title of that, It Takes Two, so George thought of that, and it was pretty awesome title there, because it does take two, obviously. So that's me, certified couples therapist, emotionally focused therapy. So that's what I do. I'm a therapist in emotionally focused therapy, which is one of the, there's probably three main couples therapy models out there. And emotionally focused therapy is one of the three big ones. And that's what I've been studying specifically for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm a couples therapist. I'm a couples therapist, and I work for a ministry called Serving Leaders Ministries. Yeah, there's brochures out there if you want them. Plus my business cards are out there on the table here. What Serving Leaders Ministries does is we come together because we're a bunch of counselors that came together because we wanted to provide more intense counseling and support for people in ministry. So Serving Leaders Ministries is to serve ministry leaders primarily. That's what we're trying to do. And we raise money for that. Because one of the most loneliest jobs there is on the planet is actually being in ministry. You may not realize it, but if you're in ministry, you know what I'm talking about. I think we have at least one couple here. 2 couples that are at least in full-time ministry. And so it's a very lonely place. And people need counseling support. And so they come to us, they come to our office from all around, and they get that counseling support. We also do counseling with other people too, as well, anybody. You don't even have to be a Christian in certain leaders, but they're mostly Christian people and ministry leaders. So that's a little bit about me, and I've been working with couples for maybe about 5 years. I've been a therapist for 10 years. That's a little bit about me. But what I do now, what I want to find out a little bit about you. So maybe the next slide. So what I'd like you to do is just your name, because if you don't know one another, you're out. So you got to get your name, and then your relationship status, because I'm thinking, at least I know that one person told me I'm single. But she said I'm senior, but she's single. Very young. Very young. Relationship status, and one thing you want to get out of this. And also, as we're going along, you have the papers that you did the candy game on, which was pretty cool. Pretty good one. It was pretty awesome to get started. So what you can do is, at any point, if you have any questions about anything A to Z, soup to nuts, you want to write that down. Because at the end, there's going to be a little Q&A. George and I are going to sit up here, and we're going to try to answer all of your questions. Don't have to be about relationships, but you probably want to tailor to that if you can. So as we go along, anything that's confusing, stop me too. Ask me a question. If at any point something is maybe you want to slow me down and maybe want to talk a little bit more about something. We have a small, more intimate crowd here today, so we can kind of do that. So that's what I'm wanting you to do. So I guess your name, relationship status, one thing you want to get out of this, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm on the spot, so then you're going to have to be on the spot, right? So where should we start? We'll start with this gentleman right here. How's that? I'll put you on the spot.
Hello, my name is Jack, and I'm single. One thing that I want to get out of this is honestly whatever I see.
Okay. Anything and everything. I'm sorry.
Or knowledge about them.
More knowledge about relationships. Okay, good. All right. Okay, thanks, Jason.
My name is Tim. I'm also single. I would also say, whatever I can learn, that I have come to the best and there's an opportunity to get better.
Good attitude.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jordan. I am in a relationship with this I guess to gain information, but also to kind of have it in my back pocket just in case certain any situation really arises. You want to be as prepared as possible. I want to be able to speak perfect language, understand it. I want to learn how to be better served, learn how to balance.
Okay, that's a pretty sweet. You start off with a pretty good attitude there. That's really good.
Got it.
I'm doing that. I'm Melissa. And going on 5 months. Something I focus about is, like you said, like just communication and talk about that. Just to simplify that better.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to hit that. That's one of the points of communication. I could be a very good couples therapist in doing a presentation, but I didn't talk about communication, right? That would be really lame if I ever did. So that's a big one. So we're going to hit that. And then I think we'll swing over this way.
My name is Kadame. Listening. But I have a lot of young people that I talk to and have meet I would like to learn from them. And personally, actually, had a relationship around 2 years ago. I didn't enjoy that time. And after I met him, he knew that I needed to learn. And I'm in that process. That we be able to the relationship. So I'm learning from both ways, for myself and for others.
So, my name is Elus. I'm single. Single. So, I got to learn this workshop because as a minister of the Lord, it's very difficult for me. I don't really find or maybe choose the correct person, and I say good. But I don't know, I feel that I need to learn too much about these topics. In this year, my sister got divorced, so I tried to learn about these topics to help other people too.
Now we're going to swing over.
My name is Justin. I'm happily married for 20 years. What I really like is and the relationship grows every year. So everything we have is good for our marriage. So I want to learn.
My name is Sammy. I married this one 14 years ago.
Smart guy.
We settled up together. This topic is something that is passion. We love learning about relationships and family, basically. can always try, but the best way to help them is by us in the relationship. So I will make
Exactly.
tonight when I just to certain What are also insights regarding this?
Another really smart man.
Yeah, I mean, anything good they can teach us is welcome for the people of our relationship. Good examples like that. So yeah, pretty much anything we can teach them will be beneficial for our relationship.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, Dana. What I wanted to ask Nick is how we do learn example and also remember narratives and 50% questions and we can, put it into practice and also
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm single. And what I would like to get out of this, really, I have no idea. Because I came in with an open heart, open mind, and asked Pastor George, should I really come? He said, why not? So, I'm here to just learn and listen.
Excellent. All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you all for going through that little exercise. And what it does is it helps me to figure out how to tailor what I'm about to talk about to your expectations so that when you leave here, you feel like, okay. All right, he kind of addressed some things. And all I would say to do is maybe also a little more specific with some things too. That somebody mentioned communication, so that would be a little bit more specific. And as we're talking, you're going to start thinking a little bit more specifically about stuff. So any of those questions, definitely write those down. So I'm going to jump right in now. You ready? You got your seatbelt on? Everything you wanted to know about relationships, what we're afraid to ask, here we go. So if you could hit the next slide. So what happened was George sent me over some questions that I thought were excellent. Because I asked him, what do you think that people are going to want to know about? Because this topic is so wide and broad. I mean, I could talk about a million things with this. So here are the questions that he gave me, and I thought, wow, they're really good. And they may be some of the questions that you're thinking of. Look at this first one. How do you know that a person is the one? So if you're single, like you probably want to know that, right? Don't you want to know, like, Mr. or Mrs. Ray? I'm not really sure. How do I figure that out? Here's another one that this happens. I hear this with couples. I don't always feel like I'm in love. So is this the right one? That can happen to you in your relationship. Like your affections for your partner, they can move around a little bit. I'm going to talk about why that might be. The next question there, what qualities should people be looking for in a spouse while you're dating? So that's a pretty important question. How do I know when to call it off or move forward? By the way, I'm sorry if it's a little small. I didn't know that it was sort of, but we're working with it. We try to get it a little bigger for you. How do I know when to call it quits? Or how do you know when to move forward when you're like really struggling with something? Should I keep going? So that's a really important question. That will create a lot of stress when you don't figure that out. How long is enough time to date before you should propose? So is there anybody that's dating here but hasn't proposed? You're not engaged, you're dating, but okay, right? So that's a pretty relevant question for you. You gotta figure that out. Like, forward, stop, get engaged, get married, when, how long, right? And we're gonna try to hit all these. What should couples focus on during the engagement season, right? So you're dating, and there's certain things you're trying to figure out, but then you're engaged, and there's certain things you want to figure out more. Maybe they're saying, maybe they're a little different. You have to get that sorted out. How hard will the first year be? Why is it considered to be the most difficult time. First year is really a hard time. I would also say if you have kids, and then the year when the last child flies the coop, that's also a really hard time for couples. A lot of couples get divorced when that happens. Okay. So right in the beginning is when I would say the load is the highest. You know, if you're going to get divorced, it's probably going to happen fairly soon. Definitely within the first 7 years. But then there's this lag period, and then 25 years later, after the last person goes off to college, the last child, then you're back in trouble again. And that's there's really important reasons why that happens, and I want you to know about that. Okay, so here's the thing, right? How do we find Mr. or Mrs. Right? If you're single, where is this person? Right? And it's probably not him, hopefully. He's there, right? Or her. Cruella de Vil, right? We don't, that might be hard to figure out. If or when to marry, how do we know when to get married? And when to marry Mr. and Mrs. Right? Building a dream marriage. Because it takes two, that's the title of the workshop. How do you build a dream marriage? Don't you all want that? Don't you want a dream marriage? So do we need to know like how to actually build a dream marriage? It's like a house, if you're building a house, right? And then how do I do that? So we got a lot to figure out. But are we right on the money? Like this is sort of like the central stuff, right? You want to walk out of here and be like, yeah, that's the stuff I need to know about. Did we do okay? It's kind of matching, even though maybe some people didn't quite exactly know. That's all right. So Lauren. All right, so there's a lot of information out there. So this is a survey, which means we're just going to kind of go off, like I was talking to these guys like a roadmap. It's just a survey, okay? I can't give you all of the details of a lot of this stuff. Maybe what I can do is we can, maybe come back, or we can develop some other workshops where we can get right into the details of things. I might get a little bit into some details, but you got to just know that with a little bit of time that I have to just first paint a broad picture for you. But that's going to be useful too. You're going to start with the broad, and then you're going to go into the specific stuff. So it's just a relationships. But I'm going to give you the survey, and these are relationship essentials from a therapist's perspective. So I'm a Christian, evangelical Christian, but a Christian therapist, and the couples come in my office, like I see all of the specific issues that you're dealing with. Those are the relational essentials that they're coming in with, that they're struggling with, right? So I'm going to talk to you about those relationship essentials. But here's the problem, though, is there's a lot of information there. Okay? When I was trying to just do like a survey, a Google search, whatever it is, and just like what do other people think are relationship essentials? And there's such a broad amount of information out there. Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of articles, and here's 38 Bible verses that will help you in your marriage. These are the 10 most essential things you gotta know. Or one person I saw was very clever. They took the 10 commandments, and what they did was they tried to abstract out what the meaning of that first commandment and second, all the way down to 10. And then it obviously is applying to God, but applying that to your spouse, which I thought was pretty clever. So that person probably wrote a book on that. A lot of people will do this and they write books. But I feel kind of bad for you because there's just so much. It's kind of hard to know where to start. Right? And so here's what I've done is I've pulled the whole thing down. Again, just write down this is the thing. This is the nitty-gritty stuff. You got to get this stuff, and all that other stuff is really important. This is like the super important stuff. It's right. So I'm going to give you the bad news and the good news on this slide, right? So the bad news. I saw this quote. I thought it was pretty good. Dan Wow, he's a couples therapist in California, and you can hear him on the radio. So what does he say? When choosing a long-term partner, you'll inevitably be choosing a particular set of unsolvable problems that you'll grapple with for the next, basically, the rest of your life. So when you're getting married, you're signing up to grapple with unsolvable problems. Does that sound like really exciting? Woo! Awesome! Let's get married, come on! Oh, that's just the bad news. There's really good news. There's awesome news. Here's the good news. You may not always be happy in your grappling, in the grappling process, but you can work towards making your relationship better. So here are the two things. people want, I want to be happy in my marriage. I would say, no, that's like, don't shoot for happiness. Shoot for these other two things. Meaningful and holy. You want a meaningful relationship and you want a holy relationship. You put those two together, the happiness comes as a byproduct. Don't shoot for happiness. Shoot for holy and shoot for meaningful. Okay, that's really important because you're setting yourself up now to have like healthy expectations because generally people have meaningful and holy marriages, but they're not always happy. So if that's like your thing, I want to be happy, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be in trouble. Whereas if you focus on this other way of seeing, you're not going to be in trouble. And you're going to end up being happy. You do get this. You get this in there. And I'm going to talk about meaningful and holy in a little bit. So next slide. So what are the essentials? The things that I've boiled down. Here they are. So I've given you these letters to remember, right? And here are the letters. There's 4 C's, and then there's an ERP, right? So when you leave here, I'm going to run out to the parking lot and say, what were the letters? And you're supposed to say, what?
Sure.
4 C's and ERP. It's kind of like a nice rhythm, doesn't it? 4 C's and ERP. So if anybody asks you, gee, like, what do you need to know to get married? Well, you're going to say, well, this guy said 4 C's and ERP, and that guy knows what he's talking about, so you really want to get those 4 C's and ERP. And in this message, we're going to go through these 7. So it's not E equals MC squared here, it's 4 C's and ERP. Got it? All right, so here's the first C. There's the first C, and I have to take my glasses off to read. So Matthew 7:24. So I'm going to read this for you. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. So what I want you to focus on is the last piece of that. It fell with a great crash. So you have friends, family, who were in a relationship or got married, and it fell with a great crash. Right? So the reason why I like this, there's so many obviously great verses about relationships. I picked this one because I think that this, especially even for believers, I guess most of you probably are. I don't assume anything, but part of the problem is when we're as believers, when all of the stressors come along, and we just get knocked all over the place like that White House. That's really us. If you're a believer, that's really you. You're out there. You're building your house on this rock that's in the middle of the ocean with the waves crashing. And that's really life right there. That's what life is for us. And so where do you want to build? What kind of foundation do you want to build your house on? Because if you don't build it on some kind of a rock, it's not going to make it. You've got to have some kind of a rock. Now, a lot of people have different rocks. So people that are philosophical, they might try to build their house on something like postmodernism, right? This isn't really a good rock to build your house on, if you know what that is. I won't go into that. But there's a lot of ideas that are out there that they kind of sound like a rock, but they're not a very good rock. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just couldn't resist focusing on this again for you. You want to make Christ your rock in your marriage or in your relationship. That really is a non-negotiable thing. And I would say, so the lady, she said that she had a failed marriage, right? So I too am divorced and remarried. So I know about this verse. I know about the house crashing. And, I don't know what her story is, but I can just tell you very quickly. It's one of the worst experiences you can go through as a person at divorce, especially the first one. It's a little maybe not quite as traumatic after that because you kind of get used to how awful it is and you get married again and get divorced again. By the way, you're more likely to get divorced if you divorce and then remarry. You're more likely to get divorced. I just said that right. But the second time is even more likely for you to get divorced than the first time. And then I think the divorce rate in the United States is about 40%, between 40 and 44%, right? And it's the same with Christians and non-Christians. Same. Okay. And that's, there's reasons for that, and hopefully maybe I can, share that with you. You'll see, you'll get a glimpse of why that is tonight. And so I just want you to think about making Christ the rock. And to make Christ your rock, this is really what you're doing, is you're intentionally making Jesus the center of your life as best as you can in lots of different places. Not only your spiritual life, but if you're a couple, you pray together. This is such a simple thing. And couples don't do this that are Christian. They don't pray together. And it's the easiest thing to happen because, we get busy, and the kids come, and you're working late because you got a mortgage, and you're paying for all the kids, and you're tired, and we'll pray tomorrow, honey, like that, or we'll pray on Sunday, it never happens. Yeah. Not unless you're intentional about it. That's the other thing is, all of this stuff will lead you to that meaningful and holy relationship that you're longing for, but you've got to go after it. So the thing with human beings is our natural sort of bend is to bend towards disintegration. Like everything's going to get worse if you don't work on it. Everything's going to get better if you do work on it. So you have to work on your marriage. It's just like a garden. If you just plant the tomatoes and then walk away and just let the sun, and the rain come, you're going to have all of these weeds. And the tomatoes are going to be all chipped because you have to work on this stuff. You have to work on your marriage. And so you have to make time to pray together. Right? And so, better believe it. I grabbed my wife last night and said, I'm talking about praying together, right? Can we sit down and pray? Sure, honey, let's sit down and pray, because we do, maybe not enough, but we do, especially when we need it. We really should pray every day. We don't pray every day. Again, I have to fight for that. Right? I have to pray with her more together. And maybe that's an issue for some of you. Maybe you're a little shy or whatever it is. But it's a very powerful thing. Praying with your spouse, also praying with your kids, especially at bedtime. But that's another workshop. Okay? So think about that. Think about praying together. And then the other thing is, think about, so part of what happened in the first marriage is we were not growing as disciples at the same rate. And I take that as, but I take that as my fault. I did not bring her up with me. I was going up and she wasn't being pulled up with me. And that was my fault. And I'm taking responsibility for that. I did not do that. So we want to grow as disciples together. So that means that you are helping your spouse to grow. And your spouse is helping you to grow. So I see this maybe I don't know if you see this with other pastors, but ministry leaders, like they're way out here, they go to seminary, and the wife is like, I sort of need to come up to kind of where you are, and you're kind of leaving me behind. So a lot of spouses married to people in ministry, they're very lonely. And the husbands or it's a man. They're growing in the church, but the wife isn't. And she's cut off, and all of these other things that happen in ministry leaders and their spouses. But so I just want you to focus in on that, praying together, thinking about becoming a disciple yourself. Disciple just means, obviously you're walking the walk, you're in the Word, you are developing a relationship with Jesus. All of this relational stuff applies to Him as well. And so all the things, these letters have to do with relational issues. They all have to do with Him. And then you have to do with your spouse. Because He's a person that we relate to. So it's the same thing happens with Him. We get stuck with Him, we get stuck with our spouse. So here are the questions I want you to ask yourself. Just take 20 seconds to ask yourself, where am I in my spiritual life right now? Where do I want to get? Where do you want to get to? Maybe you want to go to seminary. I don't know. Maybe you can honestly say that I'm building my life, or that if you're in a relationship, we're building our life on the rock. And you honestly say that. Right now. And just play with that. And this is not to guilt anybody out. Just play with it, because just let this meet you wherever you're at, and then just go to the next step. Okay? No pressure. Just keep working on it. endeavor to do better. That's one of my favorite things that I tell myself. Just endeavor to do better. Go to the next level, whatever that level is. He's with you. And then if not, what can happen if I don't build my house on the rock? Or if my spouse is not building her house on the rock? And I sort of experienced that the first time around. It didn't work out really good for me. That was before I became a couples therapist. I wish I knew then what I know now. It would have been a lot of a different experience for me. So that's the C. Everybody got it? Christ the rock, right? You got it? Okay, we're on to the next one. Capacity. This is a really interesting concept. I love this. I always think about capacity when I'm doing therapy with people. So what do you think capacity is? What is it? By the way, unfortunately, the speaker tonight, I actually am a little hard of hearing. I have a lot of tinnitus, which means ringing in both my ears. So you have to speak very clearly. I'm also blind in one eye, so I can't hear, and I'm blind in one eye, but I use the other eye, and I can sort of hear. And God uses all kinds of people to do stuff. Right? The poor couples come in, they're counting on me to save their marriage, and they're getting a blind guy they can't hear. It's sad. It's really sad. No, it's all right. So capacity, like Tim said, think of like your hot water heater, or hot water heater, just like his family. So I'm thinking a lot about capacity. You have a 40-gallon gas water heater. Should we get a 50? So that's capacity. Right? How much does the water heater hold? Right? So you have like a amount of capacity for relationships. And some people have a really small gas water heater, and some people have like a really big one, 80-gallon. Okay? That's in their personality. And by the way, you can grow it. But you have like a certain amount. And the thing is, what does it say there? It's not given that people have capacity. Here's the thing. You're thinking about who to marry, right? You want to think about this question. Does this person have the capacity to be in a relationship? Because here's a news flash, not everybody does. You might love this person, but they don't have capacity. So I've worked with people who either want to get married or they got married and then they got divorced because one of the two didn't have the capacity to be in a relationship. What happens was the person experienced such intense anxiety once they got married. They had intense anxiety because of closeness. They could not do closeness. It freaked them out. And obviously you have to be close when you're married, right? Lots of ways. So what happened was the person had so much anxiety, they were constantly withdrawing from the spouse, and the spouse is freaking out, like, what are you doing? They didn't have the capacity. So, or take somebody that maybe has autism. They don't have the capacity. That's their issue. That's what autism is. They don't have the social capacity to just sort of relate to you. So, this is something to really think about. Does the person have the capacity? The other thing here you see is that your capacity can ebb and flow depending on your stress, your mood, your energy levels, right? So maybe you have an 80-gallon gas water heater. You have a lot of capacity to relate to your spouse. Or you just had an awful day. And let's say you're coming home and your wife wants to talk to you. But your capacity is really small. Because even though it started out really big, you had a good night's sleep, you don't have the ability to relate to your spouse in that moment. So your spouse is experiencing you with very low capacity. So your capacity ebbs and flows based on how well you're doing, how you handle stress. So that argues for you taking really good care of yourself in your life, because you got to fight for your capacity. You got to make sure you sleep well. You got to get exercise. You got to, work on how you handle your stress, how you metabolize your stress. Right? And then the other thing is your spouse. You need to communicate to your spouse, hey, honey, I can't talk right now because I'm so tired. Can I just go take a shower? Can I come back? And I really want to talk to you. I miss you so much. Let's sit down, let's put the kids in bed, and let's talk, right? And that's how you handle it. And then the spouse is kind of like, okay, yeah, capacity is low. Think capacity. You see your spouse, you see them all strung out, think capacity. It's really small. It's not because they don't love you, but the capacity is really low. And then what you're going to do is you're going to back off a little bit, let the capacity come back so that you can relate to them. I see this happen with couples all the time. They don't think about capacity. Right? So that's the next C. Here's the questions asked. I have a sense of my own relational capacity. How do you figure that out? All right, Joe. It's definitely a function of how flexible you are. Resilient, I would say. Same thing. Resilient, flexible, same thing. Yeah, right. And so, and you can grow that. Okay. So that means exactly right. That's empathy, absolutely. So you want to be able to practice empathy. That's a huge. If you want to have a wonderful relationship with your spouse, you definitely want empathy. You want boatloads of it, because that's really going to help you with your spouse. So you can gauge like how empathic of a person am I. Empathy means just to define. Okay, so what is empathy? Does anybody want to take a guess? I'll put you on the spot. Yeah, that sort of gets at it. Basically, yeah. Well, I would just use different language, but you're exactly right. I would say it's your ability to kind of. So if a person's sad, you can sort of see that they're sad, and you can kind of feel it with them. Like you go in there with them in the sadness. That's what empathy is. It's like compassion. You're sort of suffering with the person. You go in there, sit next to the person. Like, oh, this is really bad for you. This is horrible. I'm just going to sit next to you the whole time. Empathy. That's different than sympathy, by the way. Did you know that? Empathy and sympathy are different. I'll just take a second and give you the commercial. Yeah, generally, we don't want to do sympathy. Sympathy is not really worth much. It's really not worth anything, actually. So all sympathy really is it's kind of like you see somebody in trouble, I'm like, oh, you're in trouble. I'll pray for you. But I got to go to dinner. I'll send you a card. Okay, that's what sympathy is. Like, yeah, I feel bad for you. Here's a card. I'll talk to you later. If you need me, let me know. And I'll send you some money. That's sort of sympathy. Empathy is where you actually literally go in there with the person. And there's a great video on YouTube about this. If you know, does anybody know who Brene Brown is? Brene Brown. Brene Brown, she's really good. I don't know if she's a Christian or not, but her videos are really good. And she does this video on empathy that's awesome. So, you can watch it. It's okay for Christians. There's nothing in there that would make you crazy. It's just a wonderful thing. You can just put in Brene Brown empathy, watch it. It's a cartoon. It's animated, I mean. So there's no acting. Really, really good. That'll help you with that. But I'm going to just move on. And I feel when it is low. Can you feel when your capacity tank is low? Can you feel that? Can you know? I'm feeling like I want to talk to my wife, but it's probably not going to go well. I'm going to let her know. As soon as I walk through the door, oh, I'm so stretched right now. I just need to tell you that. So you might see me like not paying attention to you, but that's not all that's going on. It's really this. So you let the person know when your capacity is low. That's what that is. How do I communicate that to my partner? Just kind of like what I just did there. That's what you would say to your partner. So that's capacity. Any questions on that? Capacity, right? So we got, what's the first one? Grace. Okay, that's not too hard to forget. And then the second is capacity. And then the next one is, here's the third one, commitment. All right. Well, I didn't read the Bible verse on that lesson, but not really. It's all word. John, present. What does John say? John 19. This is a short one. So this is Jesus, he's dying on the cross. So pretty tough verse. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and he gave up the Spirit. So, what is commitment? It's that. That's what commitment is. It is finished. Like, he took it right to the end. He had a mission, and took it right to the end, and didn't let anything stop him. Very, very committed. Right? And so that's a really good model for us. Obviously, we can't attend to that level, but we can look at him and let him, try to help us to see what we need to be doing. And commitment is a huge thing in a relationship. What did he finish? What did he finish? Yeah, exactly. This is a theological question? Are you ready? Does anybody want to? You're all tuned. It's a great question. What did he finish? Okay, I'll tell you really fast. All right. So this is how I do this. So that's a gospel question, right? And this is great because people are going to ask you this. What did you finish? And here's how I would say it. I would take people right back to the beginning, right? Okay, so you have a man and a woman, and they are together with God, but then they sin, and now they're separated from God. So God is over here, and they're over there. There's this big gulf in between. And there's no way for them to get back to Him. Well, that's really bad for us, because we started all being attached to Him, and now we're separate. So it's really bad for human beings, and all kinds of bad stuff happen because we're now separate, right? So Jesus comes along, and He stretches out His hands on the cross, and they probably stretched Him really good, too. You can see that in the Mel Gibson movie. It's pretty awful. It's probably what happened. He stretches out His hand, and now He's the bridge between God and me. He's the bridge. So now I can go across. I have to have Jesus. I have to have the cross, and that's what's finished is my salvation. If I choose it, which I do, I want it. And so that work is now finished. And then there's more work to be done, which is called get Bob Fair to be sanctified and get him to be, working with the Holy Spirit now, being a better person. But the salvation work is finished. That's how I explain that. And the other thing, the cool thing about this is there's an analogy to marriage, right? So when you get married, it's going to stretch you. Okay. You will absolutely, right? Would that be said? So it's a stretch. Because times get hard, and you may want to give up, you may want to yell, scream, be nasty, be malevolent, and you've got to stretch yourself to bless and love your wife when you're not going to feel like it, and vice versa. And so that's commitment. And the questions to ask yourself, you're trying to think, well, who should I marry for the single ones, right? Well, do you think that the person that you're considering or dating, of course you have to learn in the dating process, or if you're together and they commit to a lifelong process that's often hard and requires self-sacrifice, do you see this person able to be self-sacrificial? That's a really good, when you're dating, does this person look like they sacrifice? That's a really good sign. They have something there. They have some Jesus stuff in them. It's really, really good. So they can commit. Because commitment requires self-sacrifice, but it also requires you to have a will. In order to commit to something, you have to have your will engaged. Like, this is what I'm doing. And if you don't have that will, you're not going to really hang in there. You've got to have that sort of in your gut, like, yes, I'm getting married, and this is it for me for life. Okay? I'm committing to this person no matter what, hell or high water, I'm doing it, and that's an act of the will. Plus, we need Jesus to help us carry that out. But we have that will problem. That's the commitment. And so, as a person you're considering dating, you really have that following. What do you think it's like for your partner when she's sensitive to ambivalence? Ambivalence just means you're a little wishy-washy. They seem to want to be with you, but then they have times when they don't seem to want to be with you. That's ambivalence, right? So just take a second. What is that like? What do you think that's like for the person on the other end when they see their partner like with their ambivalence? Their commitment is sort of like, what do you think happens to them? You get kind of scared, right? Like, are you sure you want to be with me? Because I'm not feeling it. And they get scared, and then all kinds of problems happen. That's one of the letters down the road here. Right? So this is a really important thing. If you send ambivalence to your partner, if your partner's sending ambivalence to you, you got to get that cleared up. Because it's gonna trigger all kinds of stuff inside of you. So that's the C. So now we have Christ, and we have capacity, and now we have commitment, and then we're going to have communication. Of course, there it is, right? So I'm going to read Luke 22:47. What time is it on?
8:18.
8:18. So I think we're going till 9. You good with that? Okay. Luke 22:47. Here we go. So this is Jesus. He's in the garden, and then Judas and the men come for Jesus. While he was still speaking, the crowd came up, and a man who was called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus asked him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" Let me cogitate on that one for a second. What's that got to? Okay, see that first one up there? Mixed messages. That's a mixed message. What is Judas doing? He's going up, he's kissing the Lord, right? He's going to betray him. You betray your master with a kiss. The ultimate mixed message. You show the person one thing, the kiss of affection, but you got something else in your heart. And mixed messages are deadly in a marriage. Deadly. So for example, let's say I'm mad at my wife, and then she withdraws from me, goes away, goes into the other room. So in the withdrawing from me, that's sending me a message, right? And what it feels like to me is that she doesn't care about me. That's why she's going away. She doesn't want to be in the room, just hang in there to resolve the problem and talk to me. She goes away. And then when you talk to her, you come to find out, oh no, I'm going away because it hurts me so much, what you're going through. I just need to be alone. So there's the next message, you see. She goes away. I'm thinking it's one thing, but it's really another. Right? So what we're doing a lot in the couples therapy is we're trying to get the couples to clear up the message. You have to be able to be transparent with actually what's going on inside and tell that to your partner. Otherwise, what they're going to do is they're going to see you and they're going to make an assumption about what they see. It's probably wrong. And it's going to be a mess. So clear up your mixed messages if you're in a relationship with one another. And this is done by growing your self-awareness of what's actually happening inside for you. And then can you let your partner know about what that is instead of what you're showing them, and also be aware of what you're showing them. So in my wife's case, she would have to be aware of when she withdraws, how that affects her. So she has to grow that knowledge. It's really important. And so for us to be doing it. So we got to clear that mixed messaging up. Active listening skills. So this is a skill that you can just Google that, active listening, and how do we improve that. So if you're a couple, it's very easy to find this stuff on the internet. Essentially what you're doing, and they teach us this, that when we become therapists, they teach active listening. Basically, they'll have us sit down, and they'll say to the one therapist trainee, okay, can you tell this person a story? Like you were in the supermarket, or just tell them about the supermarket, and give them all the details. And then the person will be talking for a while, and then the one who's listening They will just play back what they just heard. Oh, so you went to the supermarket, you're saying, and then, you know, somebody crashed into your car with a car, and then, you know, you went and they give you all the details. Right? So that's what active listening is. You're listening for all the details of the person. You're not zoned out, like you're really zoning in on the person. You're active in it. You're not passive. You're really listening. And if you don't have the capacity, you won't be able to do that, right? So you can say, hey, I can't really listen right now because I don't have the capacity, but later I want to. And then you come back later and, okay, honey, can you tell me what you were saying earlier? And then you listen really well to what the person's saying. And the other key is, when you're listening to a person, you're listening for the emotion. That's the gold nugget of this whole talk. Right there, just let the cat out of the bag. That's what you want to do. Remember at the beginning I told you I had an emotion-focused therapist, right? There's a reason why we do that. Because we have learned that's the golden goose. That's the golden ticket, if you will, from Willy Wonka. That's really it. If you follow the emotion of what the person who is talking to you is sort of emoting as they're telling you that, and then you play that back. Oh, so what you're really saying is you were so angry because the person just crashed their car into your car and they were acting very carelessly. You're really angry about that. I'm not going, let's say it happened to my wife. I'm not now going to go say to her, well, you know, Jesus said turn the other cheek, honey. And, you know, you got to just get over it, honey. I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's crashed, you know, you scratched a beautiful new car. But, you know, you just have to get over it because that's what Jesus would do, right? She's going to kill me because I'm not listening to her. I'm telling her what I think she needs to hear. That's not love. Maybe later, but that's not, and this is a big mistake that couples do. They don't actively listen. They just hear maybe a few things. Oh, you know, you're angry because you crashed in your car. You should get over that so we can have a nice dinner. I mean, let's just be at peace. And and then the person is so upset because you missed them. You weren't listening to them, and it really bumps the person up. So that's what active listening is. So you want to grow your active listening skills, get on the intentional connection time. So what I try to do with my wife is we do try to sit down every day, even if it's for 30 seconds. We do, okay, let's sit down. What happened today? How was it? Don't give me the, well, it was a crappy thing. Give me the, get in there, I want to listen to the emotion. And then hopefully I can do that with her. So it's very intentional. If you don't intentionally do this, you won't. And then what will happen is, you'll go like this, very slowly over time. And that's not good. Keeping your partner in the loop. So this is a huge one. So here's an example. Like, so I have to have some IRS tax forms from past years changed, and I told her, all right, I'll handle it. I'll go to the H&R Block and give them stuff. And this was in November, so she thinks I'm working on it. Because I told her in the beginning I was working on it, but I hate taxes. I hate anything to do with taxes. I don't want to pay them, I don't want to look at them, I don't want to see the form, the IRS, the end. Right? So, what do you think? I procrastinated. There were some things that the tax people asked me for, I didn't get it to them. I did not tell her that I wasn't working on it. I didn't keep her in the loop. Until this past weekend, she asked me about it. And I'm like, oh. I didn't keep her in the loop. And she got very upset with me. We worked it out. And she was rightfully upset. I should have let her know before.
Well, that's to make it accountable.
You have to have your spouse is your chief accountability partner besides. So, thanks, Tim. Keeping your partner, praying together, we talked about that. I had a client tell me this, I thought that was a really cool quote that the client, they said, you know, when we pray together, it exposes our vulnerability. You have to think about that a little bit in order reason why it is because vulnerability is what builds your bond. When you want to get close to somebody, you have to be vulnerable. If you hold back and you protect yourself and you don't let the person in, you can't bond. Not going to happen. So human beings bond when they're vulnerable. Right? And so when I'm praying with my wife, I'm sort of like, it's leaking out. Like I'm telling her, like, this hurts in here and that. Oh, I'm scared about that. And this, I'm worried about this. And it was like, I'm praying to the Word about it. And she's right next to me. And it's just like, it comes out. And then she hears, oh, that's what's going on inside her. So that's what this guy meant when he said it exposes our vulnerability. This guy's like a super withdrawal. Told me it's like he doesn't want to let anybody in anywhere. So that was really cool. So that's another reason to break it. Questions to ask yourself: do I send my partner mixed messages? And when? When might I do that? You know, if you feel like you're not close to your partner, like how do you protest? Do you go to your partner and say, you know what? I don't think we're closer. Which is perfectly, that's going to happen. I don't think we're close right now. Or do you just act out? Do you just like protest or withdraw? Which are the two options that you can do. And so that's the next message of protesting or withdrawal. So do you do that? Do I really listen well? Do you really listen well? Do you really? It's really hard work. It takes a lot of practice. Talent. Start working on it. And you're listening for the emotion. That's the key. Do you make time to really connect with each other? So if you're married or you're a couple, do you intentionally like talk? Do you pray together on the phone? Like that could be really good. Do we pray together? So that's the, and then I think there's one more maybe. Hopefully. Maybe not. No. That's the 4 C's. So we got Christ, we got capacity, commitment, communication. Right? So there's your 4 C's, and then these. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, you
It's no problem.
but it seems like my together this is active communication session. That's like if you're getting that vulnerability and we're not as well as like. Wait, could you go back to this? Could you go back to the slide?
Sorry, whoops.
Go back to
That one.
Yeah, like if you're listening to your saying that how to pray, and then you're listening to the emotion, you can do that. And then you're just like,
You can be a therapist. Pretty good. You might want to consider intervention for brain cancer. All right. That's pretty good. You're right. That's exactly right. When you're praying together, you're hitting all the other levers. That's awesome. I didn't, okay? I totally agree. On to the next slide. The question is really with it. E, emotional health, emotional regulation, and EQ. Is that the main read, Mark? 30. And is it 8:30 yet? 8:40? 8:31. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. So Mark, 5:30. Let's see if it works there. I know that some of these verses aren't, it's not exactly obvious what I'm getting at in the first read verse. You kind of have to pull it out. A lot of scripture is like that. Verse 30, at once Jesus realized that the power had gone out from him because somebody touched him. He was in a crowd. He turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? So I'm going to come back to that. But first I want to talk to you a little bit about emotional health, emotional regulation, EQ. Can you just tell me, can you just take a second and so the lady, what's her emotion in the upper left? Frustration. Excellent. Okay, all agreed? Great. How about the next one, the top middle one? Fear. What about that one? Worry? Okay, worry. Maybe there's no right answer, but I agree. You guys are doing great. How about that middle one on the left? Maybe confused or, yeah, confused. Okay. And the middle one? We're happy, satisfied. The one on the right? It's close. Here we go. Eyes wide open. What's that? Okay. And look like a good surprise, right? Like what you find out when you find out like somebody's having a baby and it's good for them. And then the lower that one. Come on! It's kind of like an annoying, like, what? Alright, and then the middle one on the bottom. Okay, and then all the way to the middle again. I went a little crazy with that. Really distraught. She's pretty miserable though. Like she's on the verge of tears. It's not going well for her, right? So, emotional health. Well, let me hit EQ. So here's what EQ is. You have an awareness of what your emotion is, and you can tell what the emotion is in somebody else. You can read the emotion on somebody's face, and you're also aware of yours. So you want a really high EQ, and you can grow that. You practice looking at faces, and you practice studying what the emotion is. And you can get better at it, because human beings are wired, we're hardwired to look at a face and tell what the emotion is. It comes from, think of a mother and a baby. No words. But that baby looks up and, babies are born with a fully functioning emotional brain. So that baby knows, oh, mom is cooing. There's no language. It's jelly. But they just feel the happy. Because they can see that emotion on mom's face. And then mom looks down, of course, she's an adult. She can see the emotion on the baby's face. And they need that so that they're communicating, because they communicate by emotion first. And then it's like that for the rest of their life. This emotional focus therapy, by the way, comes out of scientists studying how mothers and infants bond, and then looking at adults and seeing how they love one another, and lo and behold, it's the same. It's strange. It's the same. And that's why it works. So that's what EQ is. I can tell what I'm feeling, and I can tell what you're feeling. And you want a really high EQ, so you're looking for those signals, you're looking for a guy, so you got two leads, and opposed to looking for females with a really high EQ. Emotional health. All right, emotional health. What is that? What does it mean to be emotionally healthy? Emotionally healthy means you're self-aware. That's all it means. Self-aware. That means if I'm feeling sad, I know that I'm feeling sad. I can feel it. I'm not disconnected from it. Okay? I'm fully like, oh, yeah, and then the tears can flow. There's a connection there. So what about the person who is super angry inside, but they don't know? Not very happy. And just think about what happens. If you're really angry and you don't know, you're going to act out on what you feel that you're not aware of, and you're going to be rotten things. That's not emotionally healthy. So emotionally healthy is aware. The more self-aware you are, the more emotionally healthy you are. You can be so sad and miserable and depressed and be super emotionally healthy. Because if you're aware of it, that's the definition of it. So if you're really depressed and you know you're really depressed, you're doing good. This is about self-awareness. It's not about the negative emotion, it's about awareness. That's a big shift. I want you to think about that. It's really helpful, because what this does is this allows you to feel whatever you're feeling. And your job is just to know what it is. And then, of course, to talk to someone about it, for trust and other. Right? Emotional regulation, this one's really important. You want to marry somebody that can emotionally regulate themselves. So this means when they're really distressed, they can soothe themselves. They don't have to do it. So let's say for ladies, you want to marry a man who, when they get really angry, and they are going to get angry, of course, as all people do, they know what to do to sort of calm the anger They're not going to go and punch the door or drive a car into a tree because they're angry. That's not self-regulated. Self-regulated is, okay, honey, I'm angry right now. Can I just take a second to de-escalate out of the anger because I want to talk to you about what you did that made me really angry. We need to talk about that. But right now, I'm so up here. Right now, we shouldn't do it. Give me just a little time. I'm going to go off. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to just pray. Just going to calm myself, take some breaths, and then we're going to go after it. Right? That's emotionally self-regulated. That's what you want. And you can also train yourself to be emotionally regulated. It's not like IQ. You're born with it. You're stuck with it. You can get better at this. You've got to practice it. So that's what emotional regulation is. Ways that people emotionally regulate breathing. That's really important. Do you know how to do deep breathing? Can you calm yourself up that way? Or people use exercise or taking walks or different things like that. Sort of, or emotional regulation is sadness. That's a big emotion that people feel a lot. How would you, are you letting yourself be so distraught that you're no good, just a mess? Or are you in touch with your sadness and you're working through your sadness, or for your grief, whatever it is? So there's a lot more I can say about this, but generally the people who are coming in for therapy a lot of times, when it's just one-on-one, meaning just one person, they don't do the regulation very well. It's very hard for them to feel negative emotion. Negative emotion would be like things that we feel where we feel distress. Any kind of distress. Anger doesn't feel very good often, or hurts, sadness. That's, let's call that negative emotion. Positive emotion would be the happy side. But for a lot of people, it's really hard for them to feel negative emotion. So they just do anything else to get out of it. They don't want to feel it. This is not good. They don't want to feel it, so they do other things, and then it's a mess. So I'll stop with that. I'm trying to say too much. So the question that I ask yourself, am I emotionally healthy enough to engage in a relationship? Are you emotionally healthy enough to get married? Is my partner healthy enough to engage in a relationship? And what you can do is when you're dating, you can talk. When you're engaged, you can talk about this. Hey, how do you think I'm doing with this? How do you think you're doing with this? What do you talk about? Yeah. That's how you get better. We didn't get it right last weekend. Like, we blew it. It was a mess. That's okay, you're talking about it. That's all right. It's going to be a mess. All right, so the next slide is R. Relational skills. Knowledge of your demon dialogue and relationship map. Okay, so first of all, I know it says demon dialogue up there. I'm not talking about like actual demons. Okay? They are real. That's not what this is. It's just the name of what they call the cycle that people get in. The person that wrote this book, Created for Connection, that's what she calls it. She calls when the couples get stuck and they're in their cycle, and all couples get stuck. That's what we call it, the cycle. They call it here, they just call it the demon dialogue. Essentially what happens is couples, there's, it's a long story, but some people, when they feel distress, and they're not feeling the closeness with their partner that they love, and they want to be close to them, when they feel that distress, one of the two will want to fight for that. Hey, we need to talk, because this isn't right, because we're not talking, and I don't feel close to you. So there'll be that one, that's called the pursuer. And there's the other one, who doesn't like conflict, and would rather I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. I think, can I just go over here, and then I'll come back later, and we just talk later, because it doesn't feel good right now, and how can I say the wrong thing? And that's the withdrawal. And guess what? Big surprise, pursuers and withdrawers marry. 2 pursuers don't marry, and 2 withdrawers don't marry. It's the strangest thing, but it's the way it is. It's just the way it is. I don't get 2 pursuers come to my office. It's crazy. Okay? So what happens is, pursuers and withdrawers, even though they marry, they get stuck in this crazy cycle, because what happens is the pursuer feels the distance, right? And they don't like it, they're pursuing the, okay, can we just get closer, right? So as they pursue the person, hey, we need to talk about this isn't good, and we're fighting and all that, and I feel far away from you. What happens is the withdrawer is like, whoa, step back, and they go back over here, and then when the pursuer is like, where are you going? You're going over there? Do you even care about me? Like, how can you do that? Let's run. How can you just like go up and leave the room? Don't you know that? And then they're following all through the house. That's what the pursuers do. They don't like it. Yes?
Those folks, do they usually say one or the other in these?
There can be a little bit of a mix, but generally you are, in the relationship that you're in, it's pretty much set. Yeah. You'll start dating a few times and it's in concrete. That's it. It's established, that's the way it is. And again, a little bit of a mix, but if I spend some time with you in therapy, I will definitely be able to see who is what, who's doing what. Oh, yes.
That's just over time. So the pursuer will withdraw back.
I wish. What happens is couples get more entrenched in their pattern. So here are the demon dialogues from Susan Johnson, who wrote this book, the first one. I think it's, there's Find the Bad Guy, I think is the first one. So you ever see these couples who, like, when they're in conflict, like, you did this, no, you did that. And then it's back and forth, like you're in a court of law, and they're just arguing back and forth, and it's a mess. Okay, so that's one type of a couple that will really struggle. The next couple, which is the most common, is the one that I just talked about, where there's a pursuer and a withdrawer. I explained to you how that gets messed up. And then finally, there's the two withdrawers. I know I said it doesn't really happen. It is rare. But what happens when couples get divorced, a lot of times, let's say they've been together a long time, what happens is the one who's a pursuer eventually becomes a burnt out pursuer and becomes a withdrawer themselves. They just stop pursuing. It's like, it's hopeless. This is never going to work. I can't take it anymore. I'm so tired of you. And you want to just keep withdrawing, fine. You just go over there, I'm going over here. And then they live that loveless marriage until the thing dries up. They either die that way or they get divorced. So that's what's happening when couples are getting divorced. The pursuer becomes a withdrawer. And the withdrawer just becomes more of a withdrawal. That's essentially what it is. I don't know if you thought about it like that. Yes?
All communication can improve. They see results and they told us, how you do this, they feel that way. Then maybe, like he said, it can be better or even.
That's what we want. That's what we want. But couples don't do that. And the reason why they don't do that is because they're afraid to talk about it. Because what will happen at first is you'll say that, maybe you say that too. But if you haven't sort of worked through it a little bit, you'll hear this as an attack. A lot of times. You'll hear it as a, you're not happy with me, you're failing, something like that. Men typically feel that. And then you're going to be stuck. You're like, but I'm trying to talk to you in a way that's going to help things to get better. Why are you taking it that way? I don't know if that's you guys. You're training.
No,
You kind of have to train right. So anyway, so that's the business of the demon dialogue, really. And the relationship matters. You got to know who you are. So like everybody here is in a relationship. You got to figure out are you the pursuer or the withdrawer. You got to know that. It's super, super important because you have to know why your partner's doing what they're doing. And if you don't know, you're gonna make an assumption about what they're doing, and it's going to be wrong. So, for example, I said that the withdrawer is withdrawing to get out of conflict. They don't want to say the wrong thing. It's just like, this feels too much like when I was a kid. This is awful. We just talk later. I just want to take a shower and calm down. I'm very stressed and come over here. Right? And so what happens is you got to know, the pursuer has to know that that person is withdrawing not because they don't care. And what happens for couples is, until they learn about this, they just see the withdrawer as withdrawing, like, you won't care about me. and that this makes them more distressed. And the map is when you begin to see, oh, I see what's happening. I see that you're withdrawing, not because you don't care about me, but you're just really like, you need a little buffer, like withdrawers need a buffer. Okay? So the pursuers have to learn, oh, my partner needs this buffer thing. It's not because they don't love me. That's a big shift. And like in therapy, it takes a while for me to get the couple to a place where the pursuer actually sees, oh, I see, this isn't really about you not loving me. Exactly, that's exactly it. So you have to have this map where you see the pursuer and the withdrawer, you see what they're doing, and you begin to see things going on that are different. And you can interrupt it. Yeah. You can't interrupt it until you see this. So now I know that this is very complex, and again, you're getting a very surface sort of level of this. You know, again, if you want to get more detail in this thing, maybe talk to George, and I can come back, and I can give you a lot more detail on this. There's so much more than that, but this is good for you to go and navigate. You got to learn who are you, and you can flip flop depending on the person. So with me, I'm the withdrawer with my mom, but I'm the pursuer with my wife. So you're not always like a withdrawer with everyone. It can change, but usually it doesn't. But with a few people, it can be a little different. So you got to know that. Okay, so that's what that is. So you want to ask the question, when we get stuck in a conflict, like what happens? So like, are you guys on the left or are you on the right? Who are you? Okay. Obviously, you see the one on the right. Who's the pursuer, right? Pursuer, withdrawer. So this is really where we want to look at the little girl, how lovely she looks. So she's like, man, don't you want your wife to have those eyes? You know, I'm sorry. Right. So that's the R, and then there's one last one, which is the P. So Lauren, or I'm sorry, George. Plan. Well, I'm not going to read the verse because I now got to speed it up. But this is Jesus talking about count the cost. Are you going to build a tower? Like figure out how much it's going to cost. So what happens for a lot of people when they think about getting married is they don't plan. But that's what happened to me when I was in my 20s. I didn't ever plan anything. We're in love. Let's get married. Like, come on, let's do it. What else is there to do? Love is going to get us through, man. That's all we need. And I'm here to say, oh no. Oh no. You have to have a plan in life. You've got to have a plan. You've got to have goals, and you have to have a plan. If you don't have goals, you're not going to go anywhere. Because you can't hit any target because you don't have the target's goal. So you're just going to be living this life where there's nothing that you're shooting for. So you're a mess. And you got to have a plan. How you have a goal. How are you going to get there? What's your plan? So you want to get married? Okay, so what's your plan? What's your financial plan? Oops.
That's the verse.
Oh, thank you. You spit that up for me. How'd you do that? Natural. Oh, there it is. Could you go back to the slide one? Thank you. I'm very impressed with that. So there you can see count the cost. So do we have a long-term plan which includes? So doesn't it make sense if you are engaged? No pressure. Don't I don't want you to feel that this is all heavy on you. Like you're doing something wrong, or you're gonna get bummed out when you leave. I don't want that. These are just ideas for you to make your life more enriched, more meaningful. What are your financial goals? I wish somebody came to me and said to me, this is what marriage is going to cost. And this is what your wife needs. How are you going to meet that? Can I just say Jehovah Jireh? Sure, I can say, which means, we will provide. And he will. But I also have to have a plan. And he will provide also. It's both. But in order for me to be a good steward, I think Christians get confused, Pastor. I think we think, well, we don't have to plan because we have the Lord. He's just going to help us out. Right? And then we're real life fluency about thinking through things. Because he's just, Jehovah Jireh is just going to help us out. And that's not what being a good steward is. Sure, we have to do that. We have to do that. We also have to be good stewards of what He gives us. And to be a good steward, you have to plan. So Jesus gives or He tells a story that the person gives this guy 3 things and he multiplies it to 6. He's got a plan. He gives this guy 2 things, he multiplies it to 4. He's got a plan. The other guy, he doesn't have a plan. He just buries it and just puts the shovel in the ground. It's not good for him. Right? So planning, financially, career goals, like where do you want to be? What do you want to do with your life? Do you want to be a plumber? Awesome. Go be a plumber. Good. But have a plan. How are you going to become a plumber? This guy's a catch. He's gonna have a lot of money. His plumber makes a lot of money now. Right? Career goals, family goals. Like, how many kids do you want to have? Do you talk about how many kids? How many kids? Because I have these couples that come in, right? I have a couple there, they just, it's hard, I work really hard for them, and then they came in and said, it's over, I'm separated. Why? We're doing so well. Well, she wants kids and I don't. And I'm afraid that when we reach 50, she didn't have kids, and so she's going to be miserable, and she's going to hate me. And so I don't want that. So I'm out. They didn't talk about it before they got married. They didn't talk about kids. It sounds so accusatory. I didn't do it either. The first time around. You want to talk about that. And God will provide, obviously, in the end, but can you at least talk about it? Expectations, which include things like intimacy. That's a really big one. I don't know if you're dating when we get into that, but when you're engaged, that's the time to start thinking about this. How often do you want to be sexual? Like, what are your ideas? Because the male's going to have an idea, and the lady's going to have an idea, and they ain't going to be the same often. Okay? So and this is a huge area of discontent in marriages because of the different expectations. So can you meet in the middle somewhere? Can you have a conversation about this? And the other thing, and this is maybe a little bit, this is for after the marriage. I would say, I think this is true, that the couples who talk about their experience in the bedroom, they're doing really well. And the couples who don't talk about their experience, they're not doing good. They're hiding things. They are displeased with things, and they're not letting their spouse know, and they're not working on it, so it's not going to get better. It's not going to be good. And the people who talk about their bedroom experience, the couples, the married couples, they have a much more rich experience. So I want to encourage the people who are married to begin to talk about this sensitive subject and approach it in a godly way, and just talk about your experience a little bit. That's what I would want for you, and you're gonna love it. Okay, so that's important. Intimacy, vacations, like things like that. Which church should you go to? Like one person's Catholic and one's Lutheran. Like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna work that out? Work that out ahead of time. So that's the thing with plan. So the next thing is, what's the next slide up there, George? Okay, so now we're going to look at some couples and see how they're using the 4 C's. Is it quarter of yet? 10 of?
5 of?
Oh, man.
They're short videos.
Give me a little idea of where you're at. How much more time should I have? I should have gone down. Yeah. A little while to 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So a little while. We got started a little bit. This is like a 2-hour thing, so maybe we can. It's okay. George is going to give me a okay sign. So what I want to do is I want to show you these 2 clips, and I want you to think about the 4 C's in the ERP, because I'm going to ask you, hey, how do they do with these 4 C's? What do you think? Right? So roll them. Clip number 1.
I'm gonna go do the dishes.
Cool.
Be nice if you know.
No problem. Look at that. The streets are full.
Gary, come on, I don't want to do them later, let's just do them now, take 15 minutes.
I'm so exhausted. I just honestly want to relax for a little bit. If I could just sit here, let my food digest, just try and enjoy it. Quiet for a little bit. Get some. That's what happens. And we will do the dishes tomorrow.
Gary, you know, I don't like waking up to a dirty kitchen.
Peters.
I care, all right? I care. I busted my ass all day cleaning this house and then cooking that meal, and I worked today. It would be nice if you said thank you and helped me with the dishes.
Fine. How we do the dishes?
Oh, come on. You know what? No, that's not what I want.
You just said that you want me to help you do the
I
dishes.
want you to want to do the dishes.
Why would I want to do dishes? Why?
See, that's my whole point.
Let me see my problem. Are you telling me that you're upset because I don't have a strong desire to clean dishes?
No, I'm upset because you don't have a strong desire to offer to do the dishes.
I just did.
After I asked you.
Look, you're acting crazy.
Don't you call me crazy. I am not crazy.
I'm calling you crazy.
Just did.
No, I didn't. I said you're acting crazy.
You know what, Gary? I asked you to do one thing today, one very simple thing, to bring me 12 lemons, and you brought me 3.
And if I knew that it was going to be this much trouble, I would have bought them 24 minutes. You know what I wish? I wish everyone that was at that table had their own private bag.
Gary, I'm not about the
So that's
lemons.
what I'm talking about.
I'm just saying it'd be nice if you did things that I asked. It would be even nicer if you did things without me having to ask you.
Well, I do seem to remember doing something for you this morning without you asking.
Gary, come on.
I'm
You know what? No, I'm serious. I really am. Come on, you knew I was working today and I made that meal, and you could have thought to yourself, you know, you could have said, you know, I think I'm going to give Brooke some flowers.
You said on our very first date that you don't like flowers, that they're a waste of money.
Every girl likes flowers, Gary.
You said that you don't like flowers. I'm supposed to take that to mean that you do like flowers?
No, this is not about, you're not getting it. You're not getting this, Gary. Okay, it's not about the lemons, it's not about the flowers, it's not about the dishes. It's just about how many times do I have to drop hints about the ballet?
You know I can't. Bro, come here. We talked about the ballet. I hate the ballet. You know, a bunch of dudes and guys flop around for 3 hours like a medieval techno show. So I'm your bitch gonna sweat the whole thing. I do one minute. I'm not going to end. Good. Ballet.
It's not about you loving the ballet, Gary. It's about the person that you love loves the ballet, and you want to spend time with that person.
I'm going to have the ballet.
Okay, forget the ballet. Forget the ballet. We don't go anywhere together.
We just went to Ann Arbor together.
To Ann Arbor, to the Michigan Notre Dame game. You think screaming drunk kids and leprechauns doing backflips, that's fun. That's fun for me. Come on, man. I did that for you. How do you show up for me?
I'm on the bus every day.
Come on.
I busted my to be the best tour guide in the city so I can make enough money to support both of us, and hopefully you won't have to work one day.
I want to work.
All I ask for is that you show a little bit of appreciation. That I just get 20 minutes to relax when I come home instead of being.
So we got the 4 C's here, right? So the first C is Christ. We don't really know, so let's skip over that one. Wish that he wasn't wrong. Nobody know. The second one is capacity. He doesn't have the capacity. See, he was stressed out. He needed some lover, and she was very distressed by him. So they didn't communicate about capacity. What's the next C? Commitment, right? So if you watch this movie, I don't think they did very well. So their commitment is rattled. And then the 4C, communication, mixed messaging. Did you see any mixed messages? Plenty of them. What about the roses and the lemons? She was sending him mixed messages. Right? So he's trying to figure out, like, well, you know, what do you want? You know, like, give me the clear signal. Don't give me a mixed signal, right? Like, he's culprit too. It's just that was the first one that came to me in terms of mixed messages. It seems like she was really throwing out a lot of them. So that's what we want to be paying attention to. That's the sort of mixed messaging thing in communication. The next thing was E, emotionally healthy. That has to do with awareness, right? I don't know how aware they are. And then emotional regulation. How do you think they did with that? Like he was, I thought she was doing good. He was like getting a little wigged out. So he wasn't regulating himself very well. He was trying to do video games, but that's, I don't know how good that is with regulation. It just makes him more freaked out when whatever that game was.
Yeah,
That gets you jazzed up then. Yeah. Just give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes, and then he should put the game down, and then just went off and maybe just threw some world stage there. He needed a reboot, and that game thing that he was doing, that wasn't going to do it. So the emotional regulation, you see that, and then the EQ is about awareness of your own emotion and awareness of the other person. So maybe you're not so good at that. Maybe they get a lower score for the E ones. So you have E, R, Q.
And with that distraction, he couldn't.
Right, exactly. So that was a big deal. And she's feeling it. She's seeing him in the video games. She's like distressed. She's kind of like, hey, come on, we need to interact here. Come on. And he's checked out on her. And she did not like it. So you see that playing out. So the E, then the R, that's the relational, right? Then you got the demon dialogue. You clearly see them fighting one another. That's their cycle. They're in their cycle, and they didn't know how to get out of it. So you're going to.
It seemed like they're playing one world's pursuer.
It seemed it went from one was developed and observed that both being observed. First one was observed being
Yeah, I just want you guys to play with that. I want you to play with that. I don't want to get bogged down on that. Like, I have my own theory on that, but I'm not going to tell you. But you can play with it. Who do you think? Maybe a show of hands. Like, who do you think Vince was the pursuer? What about Jennifer? She was the pursuer? Okay, you got a couple there. Okay. And all I would say to do is just like, give me your evidence. That's all. But we won't do that right now. Maybe that's another thing we can do some other time. But remember what I said, that the pursuer is the one that follows the withdrawer and then the other way. They want to talk. They don't like that. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. So that, we lost them.
It's there.
That's
Okay.
it. Oh, good.
That was the end of the video.
One more video. Yeah, show you.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Did you have a nail in your head?
It's not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail.
See, you're not listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like, there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
This sounds really hard.
It's... Ow!
Come on, if you would just
Don't!
try to speak into my head.
Have you seen that before? Yeah. I mean, it's a classic. But now I want to think of it in terms of like those numbers, right? So the first secret is, okay, we don't really know about that. The next one is capacity, you know. Not too bad, right? Maybe capacity to apply. The next one's commitment. You know, this isn't really a video about your technique. And then the fourth one, communication, mixed messages. How they do with the communication? Pretty good. Not at first, but they got really good. She started to open up to him about like the name. well, she doesn't know it's a nail. So her EQ isn't all that great, but she is opening up. Remember, her emotional health is about awareness. She doesn't know about the nail, so she's not so self-aware. That's okay. She's opening up to him. And at first, he's like trying to fix it, right? Which is like, oh, that's what we do. We see somebody in pain, we try to fix it, right? Wrong thing to do. Wrong. What happened was he connected to the idea he needed to shift. Oh, I need to sit here on the sofa, be with her, let her pour out whatever's happening inside her, how rotten it is for her. He listened really well. She felt listened to and understood. That's active listening. And then lo and behold, she's like, they bonded again. Of course, when they go to kiss, it messes up. Right? You see how they got real close? And that's the way it is in real life. When the one person who's suffering feels like the other person is going down in there with them, sparks fly, it's magic. You'll bond is that spot. You get really, it's lovely. I mean, it's nice. That's really where we want to be in your relationship. You really want to be there. It's awesome. Okay? And the oxytocin flows. That's the sort of love molecules that babies and mothers have. It makes the baby want to breastfeed and the mom want to offer the breast, right? Oxytocin. Same thing with lovers. You're married and you start feeling like, hey, we kind of like to head up to the bedroom now. Oxytocin. Okay? Oxytocin. So that's what they were feeling. You know, well, they're actors, but that's what it looks like when you're bonding. You go down. That's what you really want to go down there into the emotion of your spouse. That's the whole thing. Okay, so that's that. And I think there's a couple more. So back to our initial questions, how do you know that they are? Think of the letters now, right? How do you know if the person that you are with is the one? Unless God sends you a Federal Express letter saying, that's the one, you can pray to God, you can have a sense that maybe you train yourself to listen to God, and if you're obviously you're hearing it, and you know that you get a confirmation that way. A lot of people don't necessarily have that. And so they're going to need some other ways. How do you know if they're the one? Well, maybe a solution is to sort of ask yourself, do they have C, the second C, the third C, the fourth C? How do you do an E? How do you do an R and P? Do they have those things? Can we work on those things? And if not, then you're probably going to be having a miserable life. Because that person is not really demonstrating. I'm telling you, these are the essentials for the couples coming into the office, in my office. They don't have those things, or they don't have enough of those things. And so, does this person have those things? So, maybe that's a hard conversation that you have with yourself. And do you have them? Like, here's the other thing. Like, maybe the whole context or the premise of this workshop is off a little bit because I'm coming in and you're coming in like, hey, we want to know who the ideal person is. And I'm thinking, wait a second, you have to become the ideal person. You become the ideal person. Sorry, you're not liking it, right? So I'm thinking, maybe don't ask that question. Should I marry this person? You should be asking, are you a marriable person? Are you healthy enough to marry? Work on that. Okay? And then ask the Lord to, give you the FedEx letter. But work on that. Work on that now. Work on yourself now. And make yourself ready for your spouse. So that you can enter into a meaningful and holy relationship with your spouse. That's what I would say. If I don't always feel like I'm in love with my partner, does that indicate that he or she is not the right one? What do you think? It's a tricky question. Yeah, the answer is, do I don't always feel like I'm in love? The answer is, does that indicate that he or she is not the right one? No, it doesn't. Because our affections ebb and flow with our stress and a lot of things. So sometimes you'll feel in love and sometimes you won't. And that's really more the way it is. How about if you're really afraid? Like if you become afraid in the relationship, like you think, am I going to get rejected or is this person going to abandon me? You're going to become afraid. You're going to have to feel in love. If I'm walking in the woods and I'm totally in love with my, infatuated, I'm in 9th grade and I'm totally in love with the girl that's sitting next to me in my 7th grade history class. I'm so in love, I can't even think straight, right? But I lived near Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, a big park where there are bears. Okay? So now I'm walking in the woods, and I'm thinking about her and bumping into trees because I'm so in love. And then suddenly I come upon a bear. Now in that moment when I come upon the bear, am I in love? I'm running, man. I'm playing dead. I'm not thinking about her. I'm sorry. So you see, when your fears come, your in love feeling, your affections will come together. So you're not necessarily basing it on that. I mean, that's kind of important, but you just got to know that in love feeling is going to get into other things. Okay? So you're not basing it on that so much. Right? What qualities should people look for in a spouse during dating? What do you think? Those 7 letters, right? Definitely the first one. It's probably not going to work. It's not the first one. And then the others too. It's not going to work with those. But definitely the first one. Right? So let's see. How do I know when to call it off or move forward? Call it off when you're like getting a sign. This person is not doing those letters, and I don't think they're going to make it. They're not going to. I'm not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to work together. So we don't have the C. We don't have the first C, and this person's probably not going to ever get the first C. Or you know, you're missing this or that, so you might really, you can be in love, but that's not the person you should marry. Being in love doesn't mean that's the person. That person has to be a person that can commit, and they have the capacity to marry. They can do all of those things. Okay? If they don't have those things, you're going to be married. You're going to be in trouble. It's going to be a rocky road for you. Okay, so this is something to think about. How do I know? So what was that last one? What was the other side of the last one? Oh yeah. How do you know when to move forward? Because the person's working on those letters. They're trying. Let's give it a chance. Let's just see how it goes. Let's not rush this thing. Don't rush it. Go slow. Okay, what's the next? How long is enough time to date before proposing? What do you think? Not 6 months? A year?
I'm thinking, I don't know, that it's important enjoy with the partner all the season of the year. I don't know what is the difference, emotionally.
That takes a while. And you have to be in different situations with the person so that you can tell. She's right. You can tell, like, how is this person going to be in that situation? Because once you're married, you're probably going to be in that situation. And you kind of want to know ahead of time. Like, one thing I think about is, before you get married, you ought to be in a really nasty fight, at least once. Because you have to figure that out. Like, you don't want to be all, like, lovey-dovey the whole time right up to wedding day. That's not a good plan. Because on the other side of the wedding, at some point, you're really going to be angry with them. It's going to happen. So don't you kind of want to know? I'm not saying go out and manufacture a fight. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, get in there and tussle a little bit and talk about, see how it goes. Can you work it out when you're in conflict? Can you get through that? Right? And no better time than when you're dating or when you're engaged to figure this out. You can work this out. So I don't want you to be afraid of conflict. You're going to have conflict in your marriage. The goal is not to avoid conflict. The goal is to work through conflict. So you got to learn how to work through conflict at a better time than before you're married. You can find out. So let's see. What should couples focus on during the engagement season? They should focus on those letters. How hard will the first year be? It really depends. It can be really hard. If the couple has a lot of conflict before they've gotten married, and they haven't figured out how to resolve the conflict, then in their first year, then everything gets harder. Because when you get married, it sort of almost accentuates the things that you didn't get better in your engagement. Things will get worse. It gets accent, it gets bigger. So that's why some people say the first years are really hard. Because now you're married. And then you got to figure out how to be married. that's really hard. And I said the other thing is when your kids leave, the empty nest thing, that's when it's really hard too. Why is it considered the most difficult time for that reason? If the couples haven't really worked through their sort of demon dialogue things, man, they're going to really hit it in that first year. It's going to be tough. So, what if you're working on your relationship before you get married? That's what this whole thing is about. And then, Lauren, could you hit the next? Okay, so that's the presentation part. And then here are, like, if you want to more of this, here are some ideas for George. So Create for Connection. That's a workshop that I do for Christian couples. Right? That's a workshop that's a Friday night and a Saturday that I do. If you're interested in that, there's a charge for that. So I don't do that much. It's very intense. And what that is that's a much more intense kind of taking you through the demon dialogue stuff that is. Husbands love your wives. That'll just come, if you have a men's fellowship, I'll just come and do that for you. Shadows, understanding how your child and your past relationships affect your relationship. That's really important. Your past affects who you are. That's how you got here, because of your past. Your past is really important to pay attention to. And then fighting the dragon. I'll just let you read that real fast. Just read through that real bunch of words. So all of those things are going to make it harder for you. So you want to be very, very sensitive to any of those things if you're in your relationship. So that's a workshop that I can come and do. And that is the recommended reading. So that's this book. And so you learn about the demon dialogues when they talk about that. And then the last slide is